Here we are finishing up our H unit on trigonometry. We're going to finish with what's called the law of cosines. It looks a lot like the notes that you saw with the law of sines. It's very similar. Remember, we showed you in the law of sines when you cannot use the law of sines. I showed you right here in those notes for law of sines. I showed you that these are the situations where we cannot use the law of sines. And so, could we use the law of cosines? And the answer is yes, we can use the law of cosines in certain situations. These are the two situations. This one we cannot use either of them, but these two situations we can use the law of cosines. So again, this is going to apply to non-right triangles. The uppercase letters represent angles, the lowercase letters represent sides. Remember, same letters are opposite each other. So side A is down here, and angle A is up here. Angle C, side C, angle B, side B, they're opposite each other. The law of cosines looks like this. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus parentheses 2AB cosine of C. Those parentheses are really, really important, and make sure you are in degree mode. The only angle in this calculation is over here with the cosine. The rest of these are sides, okay? When you can't use the law of sines, use this one, all right? Also, piece of advice, always find the largest angle using the law of cosines. So if you have a larger angle, do that first. It will be helpful. All right, let's take a look at a couple of examples, and we'll use the law of cosines here. So we'll leave that right there. I want to find side B. So to find side B, first of all, can I use the law of sines? No, I can't. Why? Because remember, to use the law of sines, I needed an angle and its opposite side. I don't have that here. I have this situation. So instead, what I want to do is I want to use the law of cosines. So this angle C and this C here are opposite each other. So this C is actually B, and 44 is this. So this becomes B squared equals. I hope that makes sense, because you have a B here. That's what's opposite the angle. That's the number that has to go here. All right, so now the other two numbers become these two values. So 10 squared and 22 squared would be next, and it doesn't matter which order those are written. Minus parentheses 2 times A, which is 10, times 22, times the cosine of the angle, which is 44. Close that parentheses. And now we calculate that. We can simply type this straight across in our calculator. So 10 squared plus 22 squared minus parentheses 2 times 10 times 22 times the cosine of 44. I know you can't read that, but hopefully you can here. So that's what we were typing. And we hit enter. And now we still have to take the square root of that, because that's B squared. So B squared is that. We need to take the square root of that answer. So we're going to do that next, and we're going to get 16.36. So B squared was approximately 267.5. So B would be the square root of that, 16.36. So that's the measurement of B. And if you look, it makes pretty good sense because of the way these other measurements came out. This one looks like it's in between 10 and 22. So that seems about right. All right, other question is this one. This time I don't draw the triangle, so let's draw the triangle. So let's just draw a triangle kind of like what we just had. Let's identify it as T, U, and V. So TU is 4.4. UV is 7.1, and TV is 6.7. Find V, the measure of angle V. Okay, so that time, this is the V that comes from the formula. That's going to be over here, so that means the opposite side is 4.4. That's what goes right there. So it's going to say 4.4 squared equals, and then again, it doesn't matter what these two are, 6.7 squared plus 7.1 squared. I'm simply following the formula here. Let me kind of move it over here. Minus 2 times, parentheses, 2 times 6.7 times 7.1 times the cosine of V, which I don't know. So I just followed the formula here, and I typed the numbers in place. All right, so now let's solve this up. So 4.4 squared is 19.36. 6.7 squared plus 7.1 squared, might as well do those together, is 95.3. If you don't use parentheses, you might get this part wrong. Let's go ahead and multiply these together. 2 times 6.7 times 7.1. That's 95.14 times the cosine of V. If you didn't put parentheses there, you might tend to combine these two next. Please don't do that. We want to subtract 95.3 from both sides. So 19.36 minus 95.3 is negative 75.94. And that's going to cancel that, minus 95.14 cosine V. Next thing I need to do is divide by negative 95.14. That'll cancel that. That'll tell me that the cosine of V equals, and I need to do negative 75.94 divided by negative 95.14. So that's at the very bottom of my calculator. And that's 0.7982. 0.7982. If that's bigger than 1, you've made a mistake. Go back and check it. And then I need to take the inverse cosine of 0.7982. That'll give me the angle. So I do inverse cosine of 0.7982, which I have written at the bottom, and that tells me approximately 37 degrees. That's a long problem. You might want to go back and watch that a couple of times and make sure you see all of the nuances of it. All right, so there's that one. That's the end of that section, law of cosines, the end of our unit, the end of our unit H. So that's it, and I will talk to you next time.